everyone, this is Peak Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be a review of the second episode from the second season of The Last of Us, which was titled Through the Valley. Now there will be spoilers here for this episode and also for perhaps the computer game as well, The Last of Us Part 2, so just beware when going into this overall video. So when going into this episode, I mentioned from the opening premiere of this season that The Last of Us, whilst having some good production and acting, really suffered from a lack of pace and a lack of action and just overall a lack of event. Well, that's definitely not something that you could accuse this second episode, which was probably the most action-packed and definitely the most intense of the entire series so far. This time we were jam-packed full of incidents, events, and most definitely consequences. Now, we will, of course, get to the controversial and infamous incident in a moment, but just in terms of the overall story, it worked very well, where essentially we saw the town of Jackson come under attack from a huge horde of the infected. This was instigated when Abby ventured out into the snowy landscapes, inadvertently awakening a massive horde of the infected who were laying dormant, buried within the snow. After managing to escape the horde, Abby is rescued by Joel and Dina, who were on patrol as with many of the others. As they seek refuge, we see the town come under immense attack with a massive swath of the infected battering down the fortresses. And yes, it was quite a scary and awesome sight, seeing all of the massive amounts of infected swarming down, and many moments of suspense and dread and jeopardy were definitely generated. And in many ways, it did evoke the same tone and same aesthetic as what we saw from the classic Game of Thrones episode titled Hardhome, which I believe was in the show's 5th season, which involved a similar narrative where we saw the walkers swarming down, attacking all of the heroes. But what I also liked about this episode was how we saw the civilians were very much prepared for an event like this. We saw the various maneuvers and tactics and formations and strategies that they were putting together in order to fend off this attack. And that's something that I always like. It shows a certain intelligence and credibility within the characters that despite living in a peaceful surrounding such as the Jackson town for many years, they are still aware of the various dangers outside and have built in contingency plans over the years. And it was very good just to see how exactly they were trying to fend off all of these monsters using some very intelligent and credible tactics. And as the town came under attack, yes, you were wondering exactly who was going to live, who was going to die, and whether the towns would actually survive this ongoing onslaught. So major credit to the producers and showrunners for putting together this massive set piece on the big screen. But of course, we come now to the major moment that has everybody talking, not only in terms of this particular episode, but really since the season began. This is, of course, the major moment where we see Joel and Dina come under capture from Abby and the former Fireflies. This is foreshadowed at the big opening scene from the season, where we to meet the character known as Abby, who was seeking revenge against Joel for the murders of the several Firefly soldiers at the climatic stages of the season 1 finale. Here it turns out that one of the doctors that Joel murdered was in fact the father of Abby, so straight away we have that establishment for her motivation for revenge on Joel. They managed to enter a small room that's full of supplies after seeking refuge from the following onslaught, and they quickly discover the names of both Joel and Dina, which then springs Abby straight into action by first drugging Dina as she's not the person that they want to kill, before then going ahead to exact her revenge on Joel. And we talk about this incident first of all as an individual sequence where I thought it was executed very well. We had that really simmering sense of tension and jeopardy. If you weren't aware of what happened within the game and you've just gone into the story purely from the television show, then you're probably fearing for Joel, but at the same time you were probably thinking that he'll get wounded or severely injured, but he would end up surviving the overall encounter. But alas, that wasn't to be, as we see Abby cruelly attack Joel, first by shooting him in the knee and then going ahead to battering his head several times with a golf club, beating him to death. This was heightened to even more dramatic weight as we see Ellie arrive at the scene as Abby striking the final blows. Now, something that was pointed out through many, through both this episode and also the event within the computer game, is that White Ellie didn't just come through shooting as soon as she saw Joel being under attack. Now, yes, she may have been caught in a rush by the other surrounding soldiers, but at least she spared Joel some further pain and perhaps even gained him a key to survival. But again, it was very well staged, brought into more crueler focus as we see Ellie crying out Joel's name as Abby strikes the final blow, and we see Ellie crawling towards Joel's bruised and bloodied body. So as a standout moment, it worked very well. Now, the further criticisms arise, to be honest, not from the television show, but from the original story from the game itself. Now, whilst not playing the game, I am very familiar with the events here, and it still doesn't make sense why you would kill your most integral character within your story within the opening phases of your sequel, which was, of course, The Last of Us Part 2 video game. If this were more of an ensemble piece carried around by several characters, then maybe it would have followed logic. But your most integral character really anchors the story for you, so it makes no sense to kill him so early on throughout your narrative. If you're going to do something like this, you really want it to be towards the climatic stages or the final stages of the story that you're telling, as it will therefore carry more emotional weight. And I said this at the time when reviewing the first episode, knowing that this event was going to be played out to some sort of effect. At first, I really didn't think that they would end up killing Joel because first, it's Pedro Pascal, who was easily the biggest star of this production, but also because Joel is really the only rootable character out of the main two protagonists. As I mentioned in the first episode, Ellie is really proven to be a much more dislikable, unappealing character. So if you were to kill Joel off now, it means that Ellie has to really carry the show for the rest of the series. I'm not really sure how many viewers would be prepared to sustain with that particular character. But also the fact that by staging this at the start of the season, you kind of limit the overall arc of this particular season and perhaps the overall series, as essentially now it's going to become much more of a revenge story. I still believe it would have carried far more weight had you had this event play out at the end of the season. So you could have introduced Abby and her group at the start, as what the show did, and then have them integrate more with all of the town civilians, getting to know them, bond with them, build a relationship. And more so for viewers who weren't sure of what happened, just keep the overall viewers guessing as to why exactly Abby and her group have arrived here, what are they after, or essentially who are they after, and then reveal that secret overall in the season finale. That would have carried much more impact and much more suspense, and again, much more unpredictability if you are somebody who weren't aware of the events within the game. You just wonder how exactly the season finale itself can hold up in comparison. I've said multiple times that any series or season finale should overall be the biggest and most spectacular and dramatic installment of the season itself. Well, considering everything that happened in this episode, you just struggle to find how exactly the finale can top it, both in terms of spectacle and dramatic weight. Which is again why I truly believe that this should have been overall the conclusion of the actual season instead of the second episode. But at the very least, we will be asking questions as to what happens going forward for the third installment, dealing with all the fallout. And now, really, the show will rest purely on Bella Ramsey's overall performance in really making us start to sympathise and empathise with Ellie as she begins her overall quest for revenge. But at the very least, it will be interesting to see how exactly that plays out, and will they actually deviate from the overall conclusion of the video game, which was unsatisfactory on so many levels. So that's my thoughts and feelings when looking back at the second pivotal episode of the second season of The Last of Us. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you have any other further movies, television series, or any other topics within the pop entertainment and culture scene that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, then also let me know within the comments, and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.